Okay, everybody ready? Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Virginia City Council meeting. I'll call this meeting to order. Today's date is Tuesday, May 26, 2020. The time is 5:30 p.m. Welcome to everybody who's listening at home. Pam, would you please take the roll call?
Baraboo,
Present.
Friedlieb,
Present.
Paulson,
Present.
Beyondich,
Present.
Johnson,
Here.
Baranzelli,
Here.
Cuffey.
Present. Would everybody please stand and join us all in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Number 4 is a public forum. There's no one on the line who is called to speak. I'll double check with Pam. Pam, is anybody called to make a comment or present anything to the council today?
Hang on a second, Pam. We're having a hiccup.
Okay.
Okay, try again.
Anybody call in, Pam, any citizen that wanted to speak under the public forum today?
No, they did not, Mayor.
Thank you. Move on to item 5, the consent agenda. The following items will be enacted by one motion unless a councilor or a citizen of the city of Virginia requests that the item be considered separately. Item 5.1 is the approval corrections of the minutes of the regular meeting that was held Tuesday, May 12, 2020, and the special meeting held on, let's see, what we have here, May 12th, May 7th, May 12th and May 7th, 2020. Item 5.2 is the adoption of Finance Resolution Number 20-010, the schedule of bills. 5.3, approve the following travel requests for the police department. 5.3A, Jason Picard to attend the Interdiction Mastermind online webinar at a cost of $175, a budgeted item for the police department. Item 5.3B, John Swenson to attend the basic SRO, the School Resources Officer School, July 12th through the 17th, 2020, in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, at a cost of $1,202.44. Item 5.3B2, also Lieutenant John Swenson to attend the AMHT SRO training August 16th through the 18th, 2020, in Red Wing, at a cost of $452.13, another budgeted item. And 5.3B3, Lieutenant John Swenson to attend the Crime Prevention Certification November 16th through the 20th, 2020 in Woodbury, Minnesota, at a cost of $906.20. I think some of these are depending upon whether a travel is approved or if, you're right. But, yeah, thank you. Okay, so item 5.4, approve the transient merchant license for Ophelia Jonas doing business as the First Filipina food stand. Those are the consent agenda items listed today, and I'm looking for a motion from the council.
I'll move the consent agenda.
Councilor Johnson moves to approve the consent agenda. Is there support? Support by Councilor Friedlieb. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Councilor Beyondich? Councilor Beyondich?
Okay, I'm not with that.
We can hear you now.
Counselor Beyondis, we ran through the consent agenda, and we had all in favor signify by saying aye. Counselor Beyondis, can you hear us now?
Trying to.
I can hear you. Can you? Are you there?
Yes, we're approving the consent agenda. We're at the voting stage now. What is your vote?
My vote is yes, aye.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 6, appearances. No one is scheduled to appear before the council today, so we will move on to item 7, which is unfinished business. Item 7.1, adopt the resolution for the sale of land to Anthony Clement for city-owned property parcel ID 090-0120-00250 in the amount of $300. This is the second reading.
Also move, Mayor, the second reading. Support.
A move by Councilor Baraboo and supported by Councilor Johnson to approve the second reading of the resolution to the sale of land to Anthony Clement. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Okay, thank you. All ayes, unanimous. Pam, did you get that motion?
Did Mayor?
Thank you. We'll move on to item number 8, discussion items. The communication from Reviver. I'm sorry. I'm ahead of myself. We'll move back to 7.2. Thank you, everyone. Adopt the resolution approving the increase in the monthly tipping fees for garbage. I knew there was a reason why it went over. Once again, item 7.2, adopt a resolution approving the increase in monthly tipping fees for garbage.
Mayor, I will so move the resolution for the increase in the monthly tipping fees due to the increase in costs from the St. Louis County.
Moved to approve the cost of the increase to garbage rates for the tipping fees by Councilor Baraboo. Is there support?
Support for discussion.
Support by Councilor Johnson for discussion. Further discussion. Councilor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. We spend a lot of time looking at these fees, and as Councilor Baraboo alluded to in his motion, that these are in direct cause of the county raising their tipping fees. One of the things that we'll also be looking at is it's been so long since we've raised the pass-through through the city that we're behind a little bit. And so one of the things that we've asked staff to do in a committee meeting is to make sure that as the county increases their annually, that that's reflected accordingly in our billing so that we are not getting behind. And again, this is directly from the county. It's separate than our billing, our garbage fees. We just need to we're the pass-through for the county, so they charge us when they take our stuff. So it's unfortunate that it's going up to $9.83 and $12 residential and commercial accordingly. Hopefully we won't see another huge increase like that for quite some time, and we can stay current as we move forward each year.
Thank you, Councilor Johnson. And the clarification is $5 increase per residential property and a $12 increase for commercial properties. I'm sorry, $5 increase for both. I'm sorry, I apologize. $5 each for both commercial and residential properties. Any further discussion, Councilor Baraboo?
Yeah, I just want to let you know, Councilor Johnson is right. We've kind of stepped back. The county started increasing their tipping rates in 2014, and they raised them again in 16, 18, and now in 20 every 2 years. So we need to keep up with that because this particular enterprise fund has to be self-sufficient. It cannot come out of taxpayer dollars. We buy our garbage trucks with this and all the other expenses associated with garbage. It's still cheaper than if we went out commercially to another vendor, so it's still less expensive.
Yeah, another unfunded mandate trickling down from above, and then the consumer has to pay the cost associated with that. So, any further discussion? Councilor Beyondich, anything you'd like to add?
Rate is that sellers increase the residential commercial. So it would be $9.83 for residential rates and $12 for commercial rates.
That is correct, Counselor Beyondich. The current residential rate is $483 a month. With the $5 increase, it'll be $983. And the current commercial rates are $7 per month, and it would be $12 with the $5 increase.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion on this item? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Pam, did you get that motion? Pam, did you get that motion? One more time. Pam, can you hear us? Did she get the motion? We'll provide it to her after.
We're on our own.
Can you hear us now?
Yes, we can.
If I have a problem, I can text you, Chris.
Okay, did you get that motion?
Yes, I did, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Okay. Item 9, committee reports. No, item 8, 8.1. Discussion items, communication from Revive Virginia regarding resources to business owners. Britt, can you give us a little info for us and the public about that? You can. You have we all have the letter in our packet. This is from Betsy Alavanti from Revive Virginia, and the letter reads as follows. At the May 21st, 2020 Revive Virginia meeting, the Revive Virginia Board expressed support for our business community and the plans for business owners to be open for business. Further, they asked that I, as the Revive Virginia representative, write a letter on their behalf expressing support and encouragement to you and all to work with businesses, for all of us, to work with business owners to help them be successful in the light of recent events. As an organization focused on revitalizing Virginia's downtown, our concerns focus on spurring economic and community development. To that end, we encourage you, City Council and staff, to continue communicating with business owners as they work to get back into full swing and assist them with understanding how the new and future executive orders from the state and the city ordinances and regulations can work to help them be successful. In conclusion, we fully support the efforts of the City of Virginia as you work to provide resources to business owners in the city limits to help them flourish during this time and into the future. Sincerely, Betsy Alavanti, Chair of Revive Virginia. And all those open for comments. I think we're doing that right now. I think our staff is working. One of the examples is that with the opening of the bars and some of the requirements by the state and how you open those, so having the plan moving forward and be able to have seating outside, we're taking the necessary steps to discuss that, right?
We need to discuss that, yes, because right now our current ordinance does not allow any alcohol on sidewalks.
Yeah, so I think maybe it would be prudent to discuss this here.
Our attorney's here, and he might have some insight on
Yeah, I
that
think
matter.
that'd be a good idea to do that. And before we go to Brian, did you have something,
Yes.
Councilor Johnson?
Thank you, Mayor. Yep. Last week on Thursday, we took some time to reach out on some social media and a couple of businesses downtown and not downtown, actually, to just see what would be, in a perfect world, what could we do? And I know Britt's done some research, and I looked around. Some simple stuff like providing the actual picnic tables downtown or for the parking lot, redefining, and you'll probably touch on some of this, Brian, redefining what contiguous or connecting means, and not just for the bars and the restaurants, but for some of the other businesses that may want to do, one of the things that came up regularly was sidewalk sales. Back when I was younger, much younger, they used to close off Main Street and all the businesses would fill their backstock, and trying to figure out something like that as we move forward so that we can accommodate it, and then doing something short-term so we can help get businesses open today, tomorrow, next week, June 1st, and then how in the future, should this, God forbid, ever happen again, how do we create a business-friendly ordinances or charters or whatever we need to change so that if this were to happen again or something similar, we're ready to help our businesses and stay open. A couple of the other things that I had thought about, the bigger picture is do we refund or credit some of the businesses that have been closed or partially open for garbage fees and tipping fees? They've had 2 months of no revenue, and how or what do we do to help support that? Another idea that came up was the bars that have been closed for 2 months. Do we somehow give them some credit when they have to renew their liquor license, or those kinds of things where it's a small amount, but for a business, it could be the difference between reopening and not reopening. So those are the kinds of things, and I'm glad Revive did this to help spur this conversation. How do we think creatively as a government agency to help support our businesses? Does it mean having, and I think everybody got an email list of a bunch of, just some of them were edited. A lot of people were like, it's too late to do anything, but it was really encouraging to see people come through, both business owners, managers, and just the general population, what they'd like to see. So I appreciate that you're here, Brian, and I'll shut up so you can take your last 10 minutes and help us through this. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think the Minnesota Mayors Association reached out. We reached out to each other, and we have that email conglomerate, and many mayors and cities are doing exactly what you're talking about, Councilor Johns, particularly in helping them being able to open up, as the governor's orders have some more restrictions yet. So I would like to call forward, if I may, our city attorney, Brian, would you please kind of give us a little update? I know there's some issues with respect to insurance and being able to serve alcohol. So Brian Lindsay, our city attorney. Brian?
Thank you, Mayor, Council. This has obviously been a hot topic since the announcement was made that we would be able to get at least some limited openings that will start taking place as of June 1st. Between now and actually getting those openings accomplished, there's a lot of work to do. And I think Councilor Johnson kind of hit quite a bit of it. There's a number of things that are going to be challenging in getting this done. Obviously, our current ordinances and code don't really permit for the sale of alcohol on the sidewalks. But there's some preliminary issues that I think we've got to consider or get a plan in place. Essentially, we can start the process by selecting between one of two mechanisms for moving forward. We could either make a change in our ordinances or create some ordinances that would create what would essentially be an administrative permit system that would allow local business owners and establishments to come to the city, fill out some forms, be issued a permit, and relay their plan to us as to how they'd like to get opened up and what sort of activities they'd like to undertake. In the alternative, we could use an individual resolution that could get things going a little more quickly. The downside to having a resolution put in place or using a resolution system is each different business or in groups businesses would have to come, and the council is going to have to consider each separate request during a meeting. And so our timelines could get slowed down a little bit that way. On the contrast, the ordinance change to get a permit system in place could take and would take some time to get in place just because of the process of putting an ordinance in place. There's also a possibility that we could use a combination of the two. For example, if we got enough plans together, we could do a initial set of resolutions that could get businesses up and running, and those resolutions could sunset at some point in the future, at which time we would have our ordinance and our permit system in place to kind of cover us moving forward. The other big issue is obviously we've got to decide how and where we're going to make public spaces like sidewalks or even potentially parking spaces, portions of roads, parking lots, those sorts of things available. And those things can all be covered by business plans that we should request or ask each business owner or facility that wants to get open back up to submit to us. The other big items Councilor Johnson touched on, one of the big challenges is the requirement under Minnesota law that liquor licenses be confined to a compact and contiguous space, which means it's got to be all together and it's got to be as compact or narrow as possible. In this case, if we look at extending and allowing some use outside in parking lots or sidewalks, sidewalks may not be so bad because the guidance that's coming down says the city can give permission to that. We would obviously have to make an exception from our code as it stands today. Parking lots face a little bit more of a challenge because oftentimes they're separated from the actual physical locations of the licensed premises by a street, an alley, or some sidewalk or road. That's where it can become a little bit more challenging. And there's been some ideas floated about issuing, temporary off-site, extending the licenses, giving permission to that, or trying to redefine what that contiguous element or requirement means. So I think the first step is to kind of look at what type of a system we want to employ to get people back up and running, and then to start getting input or receiving information from the individual establishments about what sorts of plans they have in place to see if we can come up with a system or a permission that will allow them to get back up and running. One final thought is in any plan or any request that's made to the city, one of the primary things that I would urge is that we require them to make sure that they show us proof that if we're going to allow them to spill their operations out into the public sidewalks, that their insurance, their liability insurance, extends to those additional areas so that the city can be more protected. So if there's individual questions or thoughts, I'd be happy to try and answer to any of those.
I have one question before we move to the council, if I may. The question I have is that, we've done this in the past on an individual basis. The example would be the A's and Drops or the coffee shop on the corner across 4th Avenue and Chestnut Street, I think, or is it 3rd Avenue, Chestnut. And we allowed them to have their summer, festivals 3 or 4 times a year, and they're allowed to, we close off the street, they're allowed to serve alcohol and drink on the streets and have music, and they had insurance. So this would be similar to what we're doing now. We do this, I would be on a larger scale now. So I think I like the idea of doing the resolutions, allowing us moving forward, providing the plan and the insurance, get something in place for that, and then sunset those resolutions when these ordinances are going to be adjusted. So thank you, Brian. Councilor Paulson, and on to Councilor Bearable.
Thank you, Mayor. I do have a question, Brian. Would it be almost like they would be doing like a gated, like a beer garden type of an entry point? My concern and with asking that question is children that are coming along or biking along during in that area, or I don't know how often they can visit Subway, but I'm just saying, like, with the amount of almost contiguous bars that we have on Chestnut Street, would we look into something like that? And if that would be the case, I don't know if the city would provide any of that, if we have fencing or when we've done beer gardens in the past. But I think I would be looking for something about more that safety factor as well for public safety, if we could incorporate that.
Councilor, I think that's a very good thought, and I'm sure that our fire chief is going to have some recommendations to us because they're still going to have to be able to make access, in case there's some sort of an emergency, we'll have to get folks in and out. There's going to have to be a lane of traffic or a lane for entrance and egress. I think it's like 20 feet is the suggestion or the requirement, but I'll defer to Chief Lewis on that. But yeah, I think that's kind of what's been generally discussed as far as the look of it. It may look something like a beer garden or an outdoor patio. The other issue that we may run into is, depending on how close our establishments are, one of the problems that we're inevitably going to run into is making sure that the plans are as equal as possible given the space requirements. I mean, you can have up to 50 guests at a time, But obviously, if one establishment has 50 guests and we're limited to a sidewalk or maybe a little over a sidewalk, that's going to spill quite some distance down, especially with the social distancing requirements still needing to be employed. So what I've seen in other locations, or what's being discussed, is potentially doing some more limited permissions during the week and then or business hours, and then perhaps opening it up a little bit more, even to the extent of closing down some streets for some periods to allow that to spill out to a greater extent. I mean, then you always got the issues with businesses that aren't serving, who, you know, maybe your salon down the road has some clientele that don't get around real well, and how is it going to be for them if we block the streets? So it's a fine balance, and that's why it's critical to collect the plans and see what everybody would like their operations to look like, because there's inevitably going to be some discussions where we're going to have to make adjustments to make the permissions feasible for the city.
Thank you, Brian. Anything else, Councilor Paulson? We're good? Councilor Bearable?
Brian, we've done stuff like this in the past, during the land of little and stuff and the dances and stuff. We've opened up and let the sidewalks with special permitting in the past. So we have a precedent that we've done this in the past. Simplest thing is you have a space in front of each building, okay, with the length of their building. They can go there to the sidewalk and no further out into the streets, you know, with a plan. Fencing off is going to be quite a mess, because you have to up and take it down. We don't have the manpower to do all of that stuff. I still think we can make a blanket resolution for all the main streets. That's mostly where all our off-sale or on-sale is. You have restaurants with liquor license, that's a whole different category. But the only place we have on sale in Virginia is the main street, correct? If I'm right on that, it's not any place else other than restaurants. We
That is
have
correct.
a combination.
Right now.
So I don't know why we need to have individual just list them in one resolution. If they so choose to do it, make a provision in there on a temporary basis. Mayor's idea is right, we have to limit it to a certain time frame. We may not even have to worry about this, because you know, the governor's probably going to call a special session about the 12th or 13th of June, and that may all disappear. He may open up everything, because the legislature is getting on his case about opening, and I'm serious about that. And so are cities, so are city councils, so are counties. Everybody need to get this opened up. You know, I like some of Councilor Johnson's ideas for sidewalk things again. I don't see a problem with that. You can get enough social distancing, close up the main street for a couple days, or a day here and a day there. That I don't mind, so they can start at least selling some of their things they need to sell to get our tax base back in this city. I don't have an issue with, because we've done some things in the past, and we've only had limited number of bad things happen, especially during the Land of the Loon and some of these. We've let some parking lot areas too where we fenced off. Those you'd have to treat a little bit differently, because they aren't next to the premises. I don't have an objection if we do that, but I want to see all the businesses open up here. I just want to see them open up again. You know, we don't have the huge problem up here that they have in the Twin Cities. The other issue is, if you take a look, there's 860-some deaths now. 795 have been in nursing homes. The other 100 have been outside of nursing homes. So, I mean, what do you think? They haven't treated the problem correctly, from my professional opinion as a pharmacist. They don't know what they're doing, period. Yeah, you know, we've only had a very limited, small number of cases up here that are confirmed. We've done testing of our fire department, we've done testing of our police department, Edgewood Vista's done all their testing up there, of their workers and stuff. There's nothing up there either, but they're doing it right. So they've been tested 3 times up at Edgewood Vista, 7 days, 14 and 21 of all their employees, and they're checked every day when they come to work. Not for the testing, but for the other things that they need to test. So we're doing some good things up here. That's my opinion at this point. So I did a little pontification there, but that's okay. I think we need to just, they're showing studies now of children are not passing this on to adults. They've got some big European studies now out there, and they've got some other ones. They're sending them all back to school in Europe. So, and they're finding that they're not transmitting, they did one tracing that really brings to mind to this. One youngster had 172 tracings that they followed. Not one person got that COVID when the youngster had the COVID. That's one example.
Thank you, Councilor Bearable. The question I would have, Brian, is, there are state laws that we have to follow, particularly with respect to serving alcohol. And there are cities, and I think we have, where you're stretching in the authority outside of what the law says. When you're having these big 4th of July celebrations where you're having drinking on the street, and there's no control, access point to and from. And so there are state laws that we have to try to, abide by as we move forward with this plan. So my question is that, we want to get these businesses open as quickly as we can. We want to try to find a method in which to make sure that we're ready and prepared to move forward by June 1st of this year. So can we kind of waive a written resolution tonight's meeting and make a verbal resolution that we're going to allow this to happen, provided we have a plan in place to be presented so that we can be ready to go by June 1st.
I would be careful about that, Mayor.
Okay,
And,
all right.
and there may be some ways to address it. Perhaps what we could do is, I think we've got some time before the end of the week potentially, but for sure by early next week to have a special meeting and see if we can collect some information and get some more data together before then to allow people as soon as possible to get back up and running. And that kind of touches on another concern. We want to do as much as we can for our businesses, and everybody's going to be better off when things are moving more quickly. What we don't want to do is we don't want to have our businesses feel like we're not working to try and get this done, or have people go out on their own and say, well, the governor said that things are going to loosen up, I'm just going to go for it. And what we're finding in the approach in different communities is varied, widely varied. Mm-hmm. But the one thing that we've got to be careful about is not putting our businesses in jeopardy as far as their state-issued licenses, liquor licenses, commercial kitchens. We want to do everything we can so that everybody has clear information and everybody gets on the same page, so they know we're working, trying to get things to the greatest extent possible to allow them to get back up and running.
Okay, so thank you. So your recommendation is that our staff work with you to develop a plan for the business openings, and once that plan is developed, we can have a special meeting and to discuss that plan moving forward and voting on it at a special meeting to ensure that we can have this plan in place by June 1.
I would suggest that you set the meeting
Yeah, we'll have to set a meeting date. Yeah, we'll set
either
it.
for Friday or Monday,
Sure, okay.
and then we'll have the plan ready, because I can reach out to the business owners starting tonight even and have them start getting their drafts to me. They've verbally called, a few of them have verbally called me and told me what they want to do, but I can have them put it on paper and get it ready to present to the council.
Okay, so, you would suggest we set a meeting date? Okay, let's hold that in abeyance until we hear from the rest of the council. Let's see if Councilor Beyondich has anything to say first. Councilor Beyondich, do you have any questions, comments so far today?
No, yes, I'm just following along with the recommendation.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Bearable.
Yeah, Brian, you have the right idea, and Britt and the mayor has the right idea, because doing an ordinance change, that takes time, because you have to have it published for so long, you have to leave it sit there for so long, then you have to act on it. So you're talking a month away probably before an ordinance change could be made. So we need to do something prior to that. And I like the idea what you're talking about, getting a meeting set up right away, very quickly, to see what we can do. I don't have a problem with resolutions personally. If we can figure it out, the proper way to do it and get some of the criteria down. But ordinances, that's not a bad idea for the future, but that's going to take time. And we should probably do that for a future if something like this were to happen again.
As we discussed, we can put that into a hybrid model or a hybrid approach, try and do something immediate to get everybody rolling, and then after that immediate concern is addressed, make adjustments on the back end so that we can keep things going over the long haul and build some flexibility in.
Okay, so maybe we should set a meeting date for, get this ball rolling. So Britt, you were suggesting this coming Friday or the following Monday? I guess I would defer to the council for their recommendations. Counselor Johnson?
Thank you, Mayor. I'll address that first. If Monday, or if Friday, are we looking, Britt, for purposes of collecting data and working together, is there a time on Friday that works better? Afternoon, before noon, early in the morning? I guess I'm trying to be cognizant of the groundwork and the paperwork that needs to be generated so that our business owners know what they need to do also, as well as pre-submitting stuff that we can just tweak.
I would suggest maybe afternoon, early afternoon even, would be fine.
On Friday?
Friday, Monday, early Monday morning.
Well, I mean, I guess that's up to the council to decide. Friday afternoon, I might be out of the area, but whatever you decide, I'll try to work my schedule around that. So Friday or Monday, what works best for you as far as having the time frame in which to do this? We can do it by Friday? Okay, does any counselor have a preference as to what they'd like to do? A Friday afternoon, Monday morning? I'm available. Counselor Johnson?
I guess my thought is if we can do our part by Friday afternoon, that gives business owners all weekend to figure out their plan to be open June 1. I guess that's where my thinking is. June 1st is a Monday, and that's what everybody seems to be shooting for, and that would give them time over the weekend. It would also give us time to, if they needed picnic tables, for example, it would give us time to be able to coordinate if the city can lend them a couple picnic tables, or if they need something else the city already has that we can provide on a as-needed basis. That gives us 2 working days, other than it being a weekend, to help them be ready. And I think it shows also that we as a city really understand how important this is. My concern putting it off till Monday morning is now we have to work through Monday, and then maybe Tuesday they can get something, or Wednesday, and that's 3 business days. So I'll throw out a time, 1 o'clock on Friday, for a special meeting to address getting Virginia residents, businesses open.
Okay, Friday at 1 o'clock is, you're available, is that amenable to the rest of the council? Friday at 1 o'clock in the afternoon? It shouldn't be a very long meeting. We should have something in place, with a little bit of discussion. But I would defer to you, Brian, because we're going to need you there. So you have a scheduling conflict at 1 o'clock on Friday, or any time on Friday?
Mayor, I can make any time that the council sets work. And what I'll indicate is ahead of Friday, what I could do is I could try to prepare, or I could work with our administrator to prepare a resolution. And then what we could do is kind of give a template to each of the business owners so that we could just attach each business plan to the same resolution as an appendix or exhibit. And that way we could maybe address them, all in one swoop.
Okay, would you just set a meeting date? We don't need to put a motion together, just a motion to set the meeting. So I'm looking for motions. Councilor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. I would also ask that, could we invite, or I don't know, incorporate Chief Mattson and Chief Lewis? I don't know at what point they need, if Brian needs to visit with them prior to that, but I would like public safety discussed. And again, my concern is about an open all drinking on Chestnut Street. I am concerned about that, I'm sorry to say. Thank you.
Yeah, very good, thank you. We'll make sure that staff you'll include them in the discussion phases. So I know, Brian, you have another thing you have to be at. So does anybody have any questions for Brian before we let him go to his next scheduled meeting? Maya, Councilor Beyondich, excuse me, do you have anything else you'd like to add?
Nope. But
Okay.
is this possibly
Councilor Beyondich, you broke up. Are you available for a special meeting Friday at 1 o'clock to shore up this plan for the business to open?
Are you there?
Now we can hear you.
Hello?
Hello.
Are you available, Counselor Beyondich, at 1 o'clock on Friday for a special meeting?
Yes.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay, so we'll set the meeting for, well, there's a motion and is there a second? Support by Counselor Freely. Motion by Counselor Johnson, supported by Counselor Freely to set a special meeting for Friday at 1 o'clock, this coming Friday at 1 o'clock, to have a plan in place to help the businesses reopen and have a plan that we meet the legal requirements. So however that's worded, meet with staff in which to do that. Is there any further discussion? Pam? Pam, did you get that motion?
We can't hear you, Pam. Hang on one
Sorry,
second.
I do not have a question. Yes, I did.
Okay, fantastic. Anything else you'd like to add, Pam? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Or aye? Counselor Beyondich? Well, she agreed with the 1 o'clock meeting, so, okay, thank you. Brian, thank you very much. I know you got to go.
Here.
What's that now? Anybody else have anything? We voted already, so any concerns, comments, questions, Pam? Thank you, Brian. Very much appreciated.
And Mr. Patney's on the virtual meeting, so
You're very good.
he'll take care of it from here.
Thank you. Thank you, Brian, very much for coming. Okay, we would normally move to item 9, committee reports, but can we move the agenda up down to item 10 and bring our Park and Rec Director, Brian Silber, up? He's going to give us an update on, I think, the Miners Project and other things, how we're moving forward. Brian, thank you for coming this evening. Brian Silber, our Park and Rec Director. Brian?
Good evening, Council. Thank you for letting me speak here this evening. First of all, update for the MEC project. We are having a groundbreaking ceremony tomorrow at 1 o'clock. Everybody is invited to come to that. Hopefully, it's going to be very low-key. We are going to be observing social distancing. We'll have masks and hand sanitizer available, and we'll be providing everyone their own hard hat and shovel to use for the groundbreaking ceremonies. But what I wanted to come to speak to you guys tonight is about some changes that we have seen here in the past week, which thankfully is allowing our Parks and Recreation program to get back to doing the things that we enjoy doing, which is providing events and activities for those in our community. As I'm sure you're well aware, last Wednesday, Governor Walz announced that some of the restrictions will be easing. A lot of that focused on what you were just talking about of the bars and the restaurants, but also it did talk about youth sports in the same thing. So on Thursday, met with the Virginia Youth Baseball Association, and we sat down and figured out how we can begin youth baseball while we are still adhering to all of the restrictions that are in place. Then Friday morning, some guidelines came out which changed what we had talked about on Thursday. Thankfully, it loosened things up. We were being a little bit more strict than what the state was recommending us to be. So you'll be seeing that our baseball fields will begin to have children playing ball on them again.
Oh, fantastic.
Thankfully, with what we are allowed to do with the size of our baseball fields, we are allowed to have 2 pods of 10 individuals on each baseball field. Now, that can be 9 players and a coach per pod. And if I'm assigned to one pod and you're assigned to another pod, that means those are our pods that we are in every single practice. There is no crossing over from one pod to the other pod. That way you're minimizing household interactions. And of course, if there's a brother and sister on the same team or 2 brothers on the same team, they'll obviously be in the same pod together. So we're starting the youth baseball program, which also means that we are going to be starting our summer youth softball program. We're going to start registrations for that tomorrow. Now, at this point, all of our sports are practices only. There are no games associated with summer sports at this point. So what we have decided to do this year for our youth softball program is if you have never played softball in the past, or you haven't played because the price has prohibited you from playing, this is your year to sign up for youth softball because there is no registration fee to sign up for the youth softball. We're doing that because essentially without having games and without having a lot of our overhead that we have, we can afford to do summer softball at no fee for the girls in town. We're also looking at doing something very similar for our Legion baseball program. Have not worked out all those details yet. So you'll be seeing that coming out, and appreciate your help in encouraging members of the community to sign up for our programs. In addition, we are able to do summer ice. Now, there are a lot of restrictions for summer ice, as you can imagine. So I've been in a lot of contact with those who we have rental agreements with over the summer. Unfortunately, today, the youth hockey program had said, no, we cannot adhere to those restrictions that we have and offer a camp where we can even come close to breaking even. So they are going to drop out. They are our main ice user over the summer. High school is still finding out whether or not they would be able to have a program, which leaves us figure skating. Now, figure skating went on the assumption if there's no hockey, there will be no figure skating. That is not true because I have a lot of people that want to rent ice by the hour. So that is the direction that we are going in right now, is going into the ice rental business. That will allow us to continue our summer ice skating program this summer. In addition, we will be able to meet some of the needs of our area youth hockey, which is what we are here to do in Parks and Recreation, is meet the recreation and leisure needs of our community. What we are going to be doing, because normally we would be firing up the ice plant on Thursday, making ice next week, and starting summer ice the week after that, we're going to delay things by 1 week at this point. That'll give me an extra week to make sure that we can get enough renters onto the ice that the city is able to cover its cost for producing and maintaining of the ice throughout the 3 weeks that we have it for the summer. So I just wanted to come before you this evening and bring you these 3 things of good news. Oh, and one more good thing of good news. Also, last week, we did find out that we are now able to host golf tournaments. Again, there are stipulations. They're not going to look like they have in the past, but our golf staff is working at getting some of those tournaments reorganized and get those up and running for this summer so our golf course can have some tournaments and people can enjoy being out on the greens. But thank you. If anybody has any questions, if you don't have them now, feel free to contact me at any time. I'm always available.
I think we have some questions, but there's going to be one comment. You know, this is why we pay you the big bucks, right? For me, it's all about what we're doing with the community. So I think because you give us such positive news, I'd like to see you come back every council meeting and give us those same comments. Thank you, Brian. Councilor Bearable.
Just a couple questions, Brian. I'm assuming since you're going to be renting the ice like the figure skating people and coaches, that you'll have social distancing and more than one person on that ice per hour throughout
Yes.
the whole day? Or how long are you going to run it all day long?
All of our locker rooms will be closed. These are per the state guidelines that they've issued. So you will have to arrive to the arena dressed for how you need to be skating. We will provide socially distant chairs for you to change from your street shoes into your skates. We are going to allow 7 parents to be in each of the warming areas. We have 2 warming areas at either end of the back rink, so we can have a total of 14 parents that stick around to watch. We will have their chairs spaced 6 feet apart to promote the social distancing there. They will have to enter parent-only doors. We'll have one door for players to enter through and a separate door for them to exit through. They are allowed to have 10 individuals on half of a sheet of ice. They're not allowed to do any contact drills. So what hockey will look like this summer will be a lot of power skating and a lot of passing drills. That doesn't mean the last week of June we might ease up the restrictions and the guidelines from the state and they could have a scrimmage. We don't know what the future holds for us, but at this point, we're moving forward and following all the state guidelines. Obviously, for figure skating, for the individuals that are in the low and the high advanced, that's easy. Social distancing is very natural in singles figure skating. The challenge is going to be in the learn to skate age group. So we're evaluating, our figure skating coaches are evaluating what they will need to do to be able to offer that class, or what they will need to change, or even if we will be able to do learn to skate. We may not do learn to skate for the really, really young ones. It may be the more advanced learn to skate groups that we do the learn to skate program with this summer.
My other question had to do with the power skating, with the young men that need to learn how to power skate and turn and all that. So you are going to offer that too, because that's in my book, that is an essential part of a hockey player's, or whatever they're going to do, learning. 'Cause my son played all the way through high school, and he was an outstanding hockey player. So but he didn't want all the power skating. So
Power skating is, definitely promotes the social distancing in hockey. The sport of hockey itself does not promote social distancing, and so what you would see on the ice this summer would look a lot different than hopefully what you will see this winter.
Counselor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. So I have a couple of questions. I didn't know you were going to be here tonight, or I had thought these out better. What's going on for T-ball? Or is that still on hold?
The youngest age group will be the last age group to start. What Virginia Youth Baseball is going to do is they're going to start with their oldest age group, get them out on the field, work out the kinks, then bring in the next youngest age group and the next youngest age group, working their way down to T-ball. The T-ball age group typically only needs about 4 to 5 weeks to get their season in, so we can delay them as a little bit longer than you can the majors and minors.
That's easy for you to say. You don't have a 5-year-old sitting at home.
That's my favorite age group to coach.
Will there be the opportunity for public ice if people homeschool or something else, so that when there is downtime, when it's not being rented, will there be that availability, do you think?
Right now, we are lucky that we get to think way outside the box, and we do not have to do what we've done in the past at all. So every option is on the table at this time.
So that would be publicized through Park and Rec
Yes.
Facebook page?
And we can also rent to individuals. If somebody would like a sheet of ice just to themselves for an hour, sign the waiver, pay the ice fee, it's yours.
Okay. How many people could be on the ice theoretically at the same time and still be within?
You can have up to 20 people, but they have to be divided into 2 pods. So, and that's if we put the bumpers in the center. So you would have 2 groups of 10 on a half sheet of ice.
And then the magic question that I'm going to put you on the spot for, tell me about playgrounds and the current governor's order and how that's working for us in the city.
Right now, with what the CDC has come out with, is that the coronavirus does not stay on surfaces as long as they initially thought. Also, warm, sunny days, the virus does not stay on the metal or the plastic very long. So what the state's recommendation is to post signs that you are not disinfecting your playgrounds and to play at your own risk. We have currently done that for all of our playgrounds, all of our picnic tables, all of our park benches have signs posted around them basically saying that we are not sanitizing these surfaces, use at your own risk, but we've said it a little nicer than that.
So I can choose to take my 5-year-old to the park and not worry about being accosted by a city official.
This is correct.
Okay,
You do not have to accost yourself.
Okay, well, I just want to make sure because it's been murky and you're the guy who knows in the city of Virginia. So the next time I'm asked, I will tell people they
All
can
of our
play
parks-
at their own risk and like they've always played at their own risk.
All of our parks, all of our playgrounds, all of our walking trails are open for the public to use and enjoy. We just ask that you do not use them if you have a fever, if you're exhibiting any symptoms, and we also ask that you do practice good social distancing when out in public, especially when you're at our parks.
Thank you very much, Brian.
Brian? Hang on just one more. Thank you very much. Counselor Beyondich, did you have any questions or comments that you'd like to make? Anything you'd like to address to the council or to our Park and Rec Director?
No, but I thank him for belong to us.
There's a big thank you in there.
Yes,
All right,
thank- you're welcome.
I'm assuming that's followed up with a lot of more positive comments. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, council.
Brian, thank you. Keep up the good work. Wait, whoa. Time out. Counselor Paulson.
I just wanted to say a really big thank you. I mean, it's a big undertaking what you guys are doing, and I got the email from the 10U softball coach, and we are ready to go and sign up. So I'm really excited, and I think you guys are doing a great job.
Registration goes live for softball at midnight tonight.
Thank you, Brian. Okay. We'll move back to the regular scheduled agenda. Pam, did you have any questions or comments to this date to point here?
Yes, I would just like Mr. Stiltner for speaking very loud and clear. I heard every word perfectly.
Thank you very much. We have complied. Okay, we'll move to item 9, the committee reports. I will turn these portion of the city council meeting over to our city administrator, Britt C. Bennis. Britt?
Thank you. At the Committee of the Whole meeting on Tuesday, May 19th, Mr. Matt Reed of SCH, our engineer of record, was present to discuss a contract change for the library sidewalk and the front step reconstruction. It was recommended by the contractors that we add additional rebar to tie the sidewalk slabs together with the decorative slabs to avoid heaving. The additional cost would result in a change order of $2,200. It was moved and supported to approve that change order number 1 for the library ADA entrance project based on the recommendation of SCH and Max Ray Construction in the amount of $2,200.
I'll move that forward.
I'll support.
Moved by Councilor Paulson and supported by Councilor Bearable to adopt the resolution to approve change order number 1 for the library AD entrance project in the amount of $2,200. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Freely.
Just a quick comment. We've talked about these change orders many times in the past and how frustrating they can be. It just seems to me that for a project of that extent, that this tying the rebar together would have been something that would have been considered even the original proposal. To me, why it wouldn't be. I don't understand those things, but those are frustrations for me when I think in terms of, I don't know what it's costing us to have that project done, but I know it's above $100,000+, and an additional 2,200, I would think should have been considered in that original proposal for people that do that kind of work regularly, so.
I think what happened in this particular instance, usually if that's what we do, but if, correct me, I think that if I misspeak here, Britt, but I think that what happened is that it was spec'd out the way it is without the rebar because it wasn't necessary to put it in. It was the contractor who got the bid for the project, came forward and says, it may be a good idea if you put the rebar in. It's not necessary to do so. I mean, you can do it, but it would be a contributing factor in preventing it from heaving. So it was a contractor recommendation for us to decide. It wasn't a change order that we discovered. So I think that is something that's an anomaly in this particular project. But to your point, we don't like change orders. We want to make sure that when they're spec'd out, that way. And I think maybe we just missed that. I don't know, but yeah, thank you. Okay, has it been moved and supported? Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Pam, did you get that motion?
Aye.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Beyondich. Pam, did you get that motion?
Yes, I did.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Mr. Alex Spencer of Pantheon Computers was on the phone with us to discuss the proposal for the technology update for the city. As you can see, we're having some issues with technology in the city hall here. It was moved and supported to approve the quote from Pantheon Computers for the recommended server integration and email migration updates to the city IT system in the amount of $62,585 and to complete this as soon as possible.
I will move that right now to get done tomorrow.
I'll
And
move by,
I will second it right now.
okay, moved by Councilor Johnson and supported by Councilor Bearbu to adopt the resolution to approve the quote from Pantheon Computers for the recommended server integration and email migration updates to the city IT system in the amount of $62,585. Any further discussion? Councilor Freely.
I would just like to ask again, are we not under contract with Pantheon for a monthly amount? And is this something that's above and beyond that monthly amount that they didn't anticipate having to incur the cost of?
Oh, we anticipated this. This is actually the equipment cost, $62,000.
So like when we discussed that contract and all of the requirements they would be doing for us, this was something above and beyond that?
And this was the plan, yep, that we were going to bring everything back here to City Hall and not be cloud-based anymore. And that was, there's a cost to,
Above and beyond what
Above
they
and beyond,
provide
yes.
otherwise? Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Beyondich, any comments about the motion?
we can't hear her. Sorry, Maya, we can't hear you.
Councilor Beyondich, can you hear us?
Can you hear us? Hello?
Yes, can you hear us?
Can you?
Hello?
Hello?
Hello.
I do have questions.
Go ahead, Councilor Beyondich.
Crying.
We can't hear you, Councilor Beyondich. Could you repeat that, please?
I'm trying to do not have questions on this.
One more time, Counselor Beyondich. Okay, Counselor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to confirm that this is coming out of our data budget. Is that correct?
It'll have to come out of the data budget, but I don't know if there's enough funds because I didn't know the exact dollar amount.
Okay, could we maybe get that at the next go-around, if you don't mind? And I think the concern shared is the expenditure coming from cloud-based services from from Compudyne, and that, again, it was on our schedule of bills for that same amount, which is a concern, so that I think the sooner we get this over with and we we get our own servers and everything gets transferred, I think we are going to start recognizing a savings fairly quickly with only that 62,000, as we've been charged quite a lot of monthly fees from Compudyne itself. So I just wanted to get the confirmation that it will come out of that data budget.
Yeah, we will code it to that data budget, and it probably will be a little more, but I think in the long run, we're going to see the savings.
Okay, Counselor Beyondich, are you on the line?
I'm on the line, yes.
Okay, what is your question?
I do not have any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Anything else, Britt? Okay, it's been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 I
Motion carries, nothing opposed. Pam, did you get that motion?
Yes, I did, Mayor.
Thank you. Britt?
Ms. Laureen Johnson from CTC was present at the meeting via telephone or via Zoom to review the proposal for an upgrade to our phone and internet systems. It was moved and supported to proceed with the contract with CTC at a monthly fee of $5,152.55 and a non-reoccurring capital cost of $13,500.
And overall, this will save us about $800 a month.
Correct.
Thank you.
Also make the motion that we approve that resolution for the expenses to CTC.
Moved by Counselor Bearboot, supported by Counselor Barnzelli. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 I
Motion carries. Pam, did you get that motion?
Yes, I did, Mayor.
Thank you. Britt?
It was moved and supported to approve the updated job description for the Public Works Director.
I will move the updated job description.
Counselor Johnson moves to approve the updated job description for the Public Works Director. Is there support? Support by Counselor Freely. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 I
Motion carries. Pam, did you get that motion?
Yes, I did, Mayor.
Thank you. Britt?
It was moved and supported to approve the job description for the event coordinator with the recommended language change.
Okay, thank you.
I will move the event coordinator position.
All support.
Counselor Johnson moves to approve the job description for the event coordinator with the recommended language changes from the committee of the whole meeting and is supported by Counselor Bearboot. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
I
Thank you, Counselor Beyondich. Motion carries. Pam, did you get that motion? Thank you. Britt?
We had a discussion regarding the city hiring policy. It was moved and supported to approve the hiring policy changes, which are in your packet, and bring to the council meeting for final approval. In your packet, you should have two copies. One would be the red line copy, and the other one would be the non-red line copy.
Okay, thank you. We'll give some time here for the councilors to review the recommended changes that was brought forth from the committee of the whole meeting. We had some really good discussion about that. I think some of these recommended changes are reasonable, prudent, and necessary to clarify moving forward. So it was a long meeting in discussion about this hiring policy, but hopefully we've come to a consensus and streamlined it a little bit and had it more clarity to it. Councilor Johnson.
I will move the adjusted city hiring policy.
Councilor Johnson moves to approve the staff recommendations and to the hiring policy. Is there support?
I'll support.
Support by Councilor Freely. Further discussion? Councilor Paulson.
Thank you. I'm still having trouble with my computer, so I'm reading this off of my phone. And I got this on Friday, and I should have made a phone call today. But again, under regular employees, step 5, the red line, and then it's the red addition, is that correct? If I'm reading that, and maybe it's because it's on my phone that it's skewed, so it's hard to read from your phone. So we're saying 3 members of the city council, along with the city administrator and HR director, on step 5. Oh, thank you. You're welcome.
That's the non-red line policy.
Okay, that makes it so much easier. So just so I know, Britt, what we talked about are all the changes that are implemented in here. When the red line is in there on an iPhone, if it's in like a spreadsheet format, it strikes through what you think is what's added, it strikes through. So as long as it's what we had talked about, I'm completely comfortable, and I really appreciate it, and I think that we will all welcome these changes. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Paulson. It's been moved and supported to approve the staff recommendations and adopt the new hiring policy. It's been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Pam, did you get that motion? Okay, thank you.
Yes, I did.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Pam. Britt?
It was moved and supported to appoint Counselor Baraboo, Counselor Friedlieb, and Counselor Beyondich to the hiring committee for the Public Works Director position.
So moved.
Support.
Moved by Counselor Johnson, supported by Counselor Paulson. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Oh, say aye. Counselor Beyondich?
Again, hang on one second.
Am I on?
Now you're on.
You are. Can you hear us? Okay, I'm assuming that was an aye because you are on this hiring policy and you volunteered to do so. So, okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Pam, did you get that motion? Item G.
Yes, I did, Mayor.
Thank you. Britt?
It was moved and supported to appoint Counselor Paulson, Counselor Baranzelli, and Counselor Johnson to the hiring committee for the library director position.
Also move.
Moved by Counselor Baraboo, supported by Counselor Baranzelli, to appoint Counselor Paulson, Counselor Baranzelli, and Counselor Johnson to the hiring committee for the library director position. Is there any further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Motion carries. Pam, did you get that motion?
I did not get who supported.
Supported by Counselor Baranzelli.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Britt?
At the meeting, we discussed the potential conflict of interest policy. It was moved and supported to approve the City of Virginia conflict of interest policy, and it will be inserted into our personnel policies if it is approved, and it will be given annually to the employees and to the council members to sign.
Okay?
Approved.
Also move the conflict of interest policy that is to be renewed on a yearly basis.
Motion by Counselor Bearable to approve the proposed City of Virginia conflict of interest policy, and for that to be reviewed and signed annually by each employee and elected official. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Counselor Johnson. Is there any further discussion?
Mayor, I just want to put it, that is for elected officials as well,
Yes,
correct?
yep.
Will it be for our appointed commission members?
Good point. I'll have to ask our attorney that question.
If we need to, we can extend that with a
can.
different motion at a different time?
Correct?
Okay, I appreciate you checking into that.
Okay, thank you. I know you used to ask those questions of some of the commission members. Do you have a conflict? But yeah, good idea. Okay, moved and supported. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Pam, did you get that motion?
Yes, I did, Mayor.
Thank you. Britt?
At the committee of the whole meeting, Council Johnson suggested the council consider rebated garbage fees for those businesses who have been closed due to COVID-19. This was referred to staff, and staff is still working on getting information together for this. We'll bring it to another meeting if that's okay with everybody.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Johnson? Okay, we'll move that to, when you get, when.
To a future meeting,
When you're
we'll
ready
get
to
that
go for a
together.
future. Okay, thank
Yep.
you.
And additionally, we tabled the approval of the COVID-19 preparedness plan for the city operations side of the City of Virginia, and that will be at a meeting tomorrow morning at, I believe it's at 9 o'clock here
Okay.
at City Hall.
Thank you.
And additionally, we were directed staff to appropriately compensate Park and Recreation Director Brian Silber and Fire Chief Alan Lewis as Emergency Management Director, and that will also be brought to a meeting on Thursday at 10 o'clock here at City Hall.
Okay, thank you.
And that is all I have from that meeting.
Okay, thank you. We'll move to item 10 in the agenda, which is the commission liaison and department heads reports. Is there any city councilor that would like to give a report as a liaison or any other council report? Councilor Johnson?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to let folks know that the LED lighting conversion is in full swing here at City Hall, and I would, almost all or all of the street lamps our street lights are done, some of the lamps are not done, some of the random sized fixtures are still being worked on, but, and that's saving money as we speak in City Hall and other city facilities. Thank you.
Okay, yes, thank you, Councilor Johnson. Councilor Bearable?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I had a Public Utilities Liaison Commission meeting today at 3:30, and I attended because they did have social distancing and everything, and it was live there. A couple of things that they talked about, the conversion factor for the south side from steam to gas is going quite well. They will be sending out notices about every 2 weeks from here on out to those who have not converted to make sure that gets done. They're not going to extend the time because they've had to by state Public Utilities Commission things, a 2-year notification. They've given people 3 years. So they are not going to extend at this point in time any conversions that have not been completed. The payments for utilities are doing very well. They're up to date. In fact, they're actually better off than they were a year ago. So people are doing their payments of their utility bills, which is good news. They had a little bit of controversy on some door hangers they put out on doors of people that have been delinquent, but they still have to do that because it is a process of public notification. Some individuals didn't like it, but they're going to continue with that. The contractors during this COVID-19 that were doing the conversions, they didn't do any conversions for a period of only 10 days, and they've gone back to it, so they only lost 10 days worth on their conversions of the south side. So that was good news. They had a non-waiver of tort liability limits. They approved a no waiver for the extra insurance, so they will continue as they've done in the past years, where there is actually no limits if there's a suit on the liability. So the insurance companies want them to do a waiver, but they're not going to do it. So that's a good thing. They're only using the wood burner right now, generator type some. They're producing 60,000 pounds of steam per hour. They will be losing the wood burner on June 1st, and they'll be going to the natural gas fired boiler after June 1st. And that's a normal thing that they do in the summer months, because they have to be able to generate only a certain and a smaller amount, and they can only do that with a gas boiler. The SIP report is going to be reported at the end of the month, and then they'll have a full June report. They have to have a 1.5% requirement in SIP, which is their Conservation Improvement Program. That's a requirement that the state has, and they will make that easily this year with all the steam conversions. And then they brought up the ribbon cutting, which we already know about at the miners at 1 o'clock tomorrow. Other than that, it was no injury reports for the last couple of months. They didn't have some meetings for 2 months, so they just had a nice short meeting. One other thing. The package boiler that you're talking about putting in, they are putting in a new overhead door that they need to make larger to get the equipment in for this new boiler. I believe Britt sent out today an email on that. I do have a picture of where it's going to go. I'll give that to Britt, so if anybody wants a copy of it, it's in a hard copy. I do have a picture of that. They're going to be going out for quotes on June 4th for the new boiler. They're only installing one right now, not two, because they don't know what's going to happen to the rest of the system. But that will be installed and probably operational by next April or May. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Councilor Bearable. Any questions, comments from the Councilor Barnzelli?
Yes. Councilor Bearable, are they ahead of schedule? How are they coming? Are they closing, be done by October, like they planned? On the south side?
Yeah, they have to be done by the end of the year. They're on schedule so far, and if they said October, they may make it depending on the contractors, but it has to be done by the time heating season, or the people that don't have it, they're going to be in trouble. They're looking at some type of emergency situation. They did some of that when they had problems where the stuff didn't get fired up properly when they were doing conversions. They have some oil conversion heaters that they have used, and they may have to use some of those if it gets into the colder weather and they're not done. That did come up today, too. Thanks for asking the question.
Are they working at it?
Yeah, they're working on it.
They're working right through,
Yeah,
eh?
the contracts are working right through, absolutely.
Thank
Now,
you.
they did state that if an individual doesn't want them to come into the house because of this COVID, they will back away, but they're not giving them any leeway for extending it, because if they extend it, and I didn't report this, it came up that if they extended it another season, it would cost them an additional $2 million with no revenues coming in. So they did state that. So they can't afford to not have this done this year.
If they extended it, it would cost $2 million to keep steam on those houses, right?
Keep steam in the south side, yes, because there's such a loss of steam with people not using it. So it's got to be done this year.
Okay, thank you. We'll go to Councilor Beyondich. Anything you'd like to report this evening? Okay, we'll move to city staff. First, we'll go to,
Thank you.
go ahead, Councilor Beyondich. Did you have something? Okay, we'll move to our department head reports. to our Finance HR Director. Anything that you would like to add, Sherry, or any information to disseminate to the public, to the council body?
No, we should be pretty close to getting the audit done and having a report.
Okay, the audit is being done virtually and Zoom-wise, and it's been a challenge, but we're working for a resolution there. Okay, good, thank you. The audit is on track. Britt, did you have anything you'd like to add? Okay. Is there anything else that we come before the council before we adjourn?
Can I just ask,
Baraboo?
Sherry, did you get the utilities portion of the audit already? Is that, because they did talk about that at today's meeting, that it is done, and they will be distributing it to their members of the commission. So I don't know, did we get it for our portion of the audit?
I haven't checked with Greg, excuse me.
But
Yet.
they did say they had theirs completed.
Well,
It was
that'd be
in,
good.
it was in, which is the first time in a long time it's been done, but they're distributing it in formal form in the next week or so, so hopefully we'll get it.
Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, hearing no further business to become for the council, we will adjourn this council meeting. Our next regularly scheduled council meeting is June 9th, Tuesday, at 5:30 PM in the council chambers. We do have a meeting tomorrow morning at 9 AM, and then a personnel committee on Thursday, and the special meeting on Friday at 1 o'clock, correct? Very good, thank you. Everybody have a safe, Councilor Barnzell, do you have something you
Mayor,
want to add?
At 1 PM on Wednesday, they're going to have ribbon cutting?
Tomorrow at 1 o'clock,
Yes.
ribbon cutting at the Miners, right? Okay. What's that? Yeah, tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow, Wednesday, yeah. Okay, thank you. No other business? Thank you very much. Everybody be safe. Have a great week. Make sure you give an opportunity to help your neighbor out whenever possible. We stand adjourned.